Okay, everybody be quiet, please. Hey, that worked. Okay. As is our custom, let's all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome to our presentation tonight. I'll just bring you up to date on a few things that are going to be happening in the future. November 20th is our next community meeting. It'll be right here at 7 o'clock on the 20th, and that's going to be Rick Balkowski, who is introducing a new book that he has, which is Historical Places in Western New York. And correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, it does mention Haus and
it
museum.
Does.
So we have a place in that book, so it should be an interesting presentation. Then we've got a couple things. First of all, if you saw it out when you walked in by the entrance there's a half sheet which has information on 2 tours of Germany. And this is put on by Jim Jagow in Wisconsin. It's the same guy who put together the trip that I went on last year. And if you want to actually visit Germany and go to the Uckermark, to the places where our ancestors came from, this is about the only way to do it in an organized fashion. Otherwise, you're sort of got to do it on your own. Whereas he will include the historic, or the villages like Berkholz and Valmore and Brusal, things like that. So there's information there if you're interested. Then the other big piece is we're going to be having a nice celebration on October 25th. It's going to be great. You know that our ancestors loved church. Church was the big social gathering, social events were all held around church. Sometimes the men would get together at the social event and probably sneak off and have a beer or two, but also they would be able to play euchre. Well, cards weren't looked upon with favor in some of the old church events, but they knew how to figure out a way to play euchre with dominoes. So we're going to teach you, because there's still a few people that know how. So if you want to come to this gathering, that's one of the things we'll have. We'll have German local area trivia. We'll also have Martha teaching a little Plattdeutsch if you want to learn a few words or sentences so you could speak Plattdeutsch, the language of your ancestors. We're going to have like a roots search. I'll have a computer there and be able to go through some of the old church records if you want to look up some names and trying to figure out the connections. We're also going to attempt to do well, it's not going to be an attempt, it's going to be a great thing. We're going to do the old Schnitzelbach song. So we've got somebody that's really been working on it, and we're looking forward to that. So it's going to be a great evening. Now that's October 25th. It's going to be over at the St. James Fellowship Hall. You all know that's the hall behind the church. And the best part of it is you get free refreshments and there's no charge. So can't beat that. It's going to be a great, great evening. So that's pretty much what we've got coming up over the next couple of months. Should be great fun this fall. And today we have Jack Edson, who's a quilt artist right there. And I'm going to ask Justin if he'd introduce Jack, because he's going to be helping.
Yeah, just, this is just going to be a very interesting and fun presentation. I know we've never had a quilting presentation before, but I think we've taken it up a notch or two with this fellow right here. He's one of the premier artists of the Western New York area, and even had a retrospective of his career over at the Kenan Center in Lockport, curated by the noted curator and artist himself, Gerald Mead. It's a pleasure to know him as a friend and an artistic colleague. And all the way from Hamburg, Jack Edson.
Oh, thanks, Justin. Hi, everybody. I have my fan club from Hamburg and Terry from the library. So thank you all for coming, all of you. Thanks for inviting me, Justin. I've been making quilts for 50 years now. I began in 1975, and it was inspired by the bicentennial year, in which it was a revival of Americana, and it's the second great quilt revival, I call it, because so many people started taking this art form seriously, either for utilitarian objects, making a quilt for your bed, or making out of a kit or something, or in my case, using it as a medium to make artwork. Okay, so as I show these, you're looking at not quite the whole 50-year range, but pretty close. Probably the oldest quilts are 40 years old or so. And that goes back to before I had a sewing machine, you know, in which I sew on my hand. One thing to keep in mind is with what we do, what we make, if we're using craft media as art, we don't need a whole lot of equipment. It can be very low tech, you know, a needle, thread, scissors, material, instead of having to have expensive and, you know, particular tools. The other thing is you don't need like super skills to make many of these things. You can make a perfectly nice project with, you know, not having studied abroad or, you know, studied under the master or whatever. In fact, in my case, I think you'll see kind of eccentric, idiosyncratic, odd-looking work, rather than, I mean, somebody mentioned they had been to visit the Amish. I overheard that. Somebody said, I was just seeing the Amish and yeah, they make these quilts. Well, they're kind of like all the same looking. You know, it's the same color combo, and, you know, I mean, I'm not putting them down or anything, but they all, you know, like from a distance, they look alike. Whereas with mine, you know, I'm always kind of amazed that the same person made these. Okay, and that's something that I need to hang on to. One of my interests is the Birchfield Art Center, and the curators there asked me and two other male artists, people that take tours there, to curate a show. We could do anything we wanted. We had to use their collection. So we came up with the idea atypical. Okay, the idea with artists, we think of, you know, you think of like Birchfield, and you think, you know, I don't know, sad-looking tree or a building with eyes in the windows or whatever. Okay, I mean, that's like the typical. But most artists did a lot of other work that is not typical. Okay, so that's what we did. We found maybe 12 West New York artists, and he had a piece of their typical work, and then something that you'd never really guess who made it by looking at it until you really start scrutinizing it. So anyway, I don't know how I'm going to do this because I've only got two hands, but yeah, Justin, how about those top two? Yeah, you know, when I begin these talks, you gotta keep it kind of funny, right? So anyway, I say I began 50 years ago, and I began small. You know, I started small, just a little quilt, you know. In fact, here's an even smaller one.
Oh my
These are miniatures, and in some, I mean, there's a whole group of people that only make miniature quilts. Instead of making the full-size, you know, bed type one, sometimes I'll just make a small one. Although I haven't made a small one in a while. This is Feathered Star. Okay, and I think this one's made by hand. And it's kind of like a mystery, even to me when I look at these things. People say, well, how did you make it? How did you make it? And the answer is like, yeah, good question in many cases. So usually it's the process of making it that's as important as the finished product. Okay, so this was, a quilt pattern I've always wanted to make, but if you make a big bed size one, you're talking several months to make it. Okay, and I just wanted to kind of get one under my belt, make it a little one. And for any of the artists in the group or quilt makers, I always recommend signing everything because, in the future, and let's face it, how fast does time fly? How fast, you can't remember when you made it, or when you're not around identifying your own work, people are not going to know who made it. So I put my initials and the year. So this is 1995. So, that's already 30 years ago. So anyway, this is another star. There's many, many, many stars in American quilts. And every variation has a different name. And this one, I don't know, started up in Texas or something. One thing you'll notice about my work, I almost always default to this color combination. Red and yellow, black and white, and then some cool color in it. Okay, so even if you can find exceptions to that, that's sort of where they all begin kind of in my mind, And I was giving this talk, I don't know, a couple months ago, and it kind of dawned on me that I began art when I was about, 3 or 4 or so, with, a box of crayons. And if you think about the 8 colors in the little box of crayons, you sort of I never really get away from that as far as using all those colors and sticking, going back to those basic early influences. How about we just put the ones we've shown over here, and after we're done, you're welcome to look at these. This is another it's like based on a famous quilt. There's all these books about quilts, and this was something like 100 of the greatest American quilts. A big coffee table type book. So I made it. I've copied a lot of quilts. When I began, I went to 2 quilt shows in the bicentennial period. One was in Hamburg at a church, Methodist church. They had people bring in quilts and put them over the pew, for one afternoon, I guess. And they had this beauty hanging from the choir, which had a Bible verse written in little red and white squares, kind of like an alphabet that you would find in needlework samplers. And I thought to myself, I collect things, and I thought, maybe I could collect quilts. And I thought, honestly, one way of collecting quilts would be to make them. Somebody had to make them. And so I got this book, 20 Easy Quilts or something like that. It had kind of like cardboard pages, and you had to cut out the triangle, and then, like I traced it on the back of the cloth, and then add another ½ inch or something. And, anyway, now I've streamlined all those steps. And if it doesn't get me where I want it to go, like, I just don't do those laborious, time-consuming, steps. Okay, so that's, it's 10 by 10, and this is a very favorite quilt log cabin, usually a red square in the center, and then you put the logs around it, and you can put them with light and dark. You can arrange these every which way. So this is another one with the basic color combo, but if you look at it, it's got a lot of blue in it. Okay, and there's another pattern worked out with that blue. Yep. It's 2,100.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's each, say it's 10 by 10, 100, and 21 in each of the blocks. So, and I think that one's hand done too. And then as anybody that quilts knows, this is the top, and it's done in patchwork. There's patchwork or applique. Applique is cutting in shape and sewing it on top. And then one of the quilting is the three layers: the top, the batting, and then the backing. And the quilting is the verb that you're going through it. You can just do it for utilitarian purposes, to hold it together or to get a pattern. What I usually do, if it's horizontal and vertical in the top, I usually use diagonals to go through it. And I'll talk a little bit about that when we get to some picture quilts. And then one of my other interests is local history. So I'm from the village of Hamburg, and yeah, that's nice. One of my interests is I've written 3 of those Images of America books. They're sepia color. You see them. Every drugstore has a spinner with, in your community. Funny little story. This is a picture of the building, the B.M. Fish dry goods store, which was on the corner of Maine and Buffalo. The roundabout is there now. It really went over the property. And in it, dry goods store, but the Hamburg Free Library was on the 2nd floor for something like 1901 to 1914, I think, in which the Carnegie, freestanding library was built after that. So this is the building, and so it's a historic building. It's from a postcard. It's like Italianate style building, 3 stories, which was kind of pretty high aspirations for this time period. And then I made this, no pattern, nothing. I usually just start with the windows and figure, I don't know, I'll make the windows, then I'll put, stuff in between the windows and then kind of see what happens. Well, this was finished probably in the year 2000 or so. It's got a date on it somewhere. This sign says Hamburg Free Library. That's where the sign was for that time. And then later, not that long ago, I felt it needed a person in it. So I worked at the public library 46 years, and Hamburg 31 years. And I put a picture of like myself holding a book in Okay, so you can see there's various, using material, like printed material to give like a 3D, certain things look like they're coming forward, and other things look like they're coming back. So there's always this attempt to go from 2-dimensional height and width to try to simulate depth. Okay, so good. And I don't know what's next, but Justin will surprise us all with something. Oh, this is a brand new one, which is upside down. This is the top here. And I'm very interested in art history. Wow. And yeah, this is the Spanish painter Velázquez. And I'm very interested in art biographies. Every artist living and dead, I want to know about them. So this is a self-portrait. He, painted himself many times. And this is an image I use to teach this class. I give classes on how to make a portrait quilt. And this one is neither too hard nor too easy. It's kind of just right. And it's from a painting in the Uffizi Museum in Florence. They have this gigantic collection of oil paintings of artists' self-portraits. So that's where that's from. And if you want to, see that kind of drawings? Okay, how about maybe? Usually, okay, this was from my trip to Italy, like, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I'll take all these photographs of famous, artists, and then I'll do kind of a grid, which, you see a grid in the quilts. It's a basic quilt block pattern. This is, yeah, it's the Rome artist Bernini, big sculptor and architect. So I think what I'm trying to illustrate, this is Delacroix, the romantic French artist, that you can't just do a portrait if you can't draw. I mean, you always have to work on these other skills. Some people, they can make a quilt, but you really need to have this, understanding of tone and shape and, color, that kind of thing. So as I'm making these, I'm sort of streamlining it a little. Maybe you can't make every hair on the guy's head or every dot on his tie, but you're sort of thinking, how could I translate that image into fabric? Something that I can actually sew. And for those people that sew, remember you're doing it backwards. You're sewing on the back for patchwork. Yeah, that's Caravaggio, one of my superheroes. Yeah, it's got the grid. So what I will do, either using the image or drawing or whatever, I'll take, I'm a great recycler, so, greeting cards or junk mail or whatever, and cut a little 1-inch square out and just tape it over the 1-inch square. So I'm only making that. If you look at the whole image, it would sort of throw you into a panic. Like, how am I going to do that thing? I can't do it. But if you, what's that old saying, inch by inch, yard by yard, life is hard, but inch by inch, life is a cinch. Well, same with this one. And then it pays to be a great lover of that artist when you're working. When I'm working, I'm usually reading a book about them or watching these YouTube movies about that artist or, kind of getting, some ideas about maybe how to jazz it up a little with color or whatever it might be. Yeah, he only lived to be 37. All the great masterpieces. This is another one. Can you even see Caravaggio on that? It's in Rome. It's in this church. It's from a painting, The Martyrdom of St. Matthew. He was killed while saying Mass. And Caravaggio puts himself in the painting, kind of hiding behind another guy. He's sort of watching, this martyrdom take place. So I did a quilt of that, which it's at the quilters now. Some of these I quilt myself, but actually make so many I can't keep up with myself. And there's this woman from Japan who lives in Ohio, and I just kind of give them to her. And the problem is she charges a fortune. So years ago, I took this class in bookbinding, and we had an elderly lady teaching it. It was at Cooperstown, and she said, "Well, does anybody have any question?" And I mean, this was like basic bookbinding. You can't make a little pamphlet and like staple it or something. So anyway, this guy says, "How do you do that gold leaf on the edge of like a Bible or something?" And she says, she said, and this leads to that. There's 3 steps. First of all, you rob a bank. Secondly, you go buy the gold leaf. And third, well, there's this room. But I mean, in so many cases, You know, with Hiroko quilting, you got to rob the bank first. So anyway, never rob the bank. This is the Impressionist artist, Vera Tamoriso. Can you see okay with her? Okay. She's one of two female Impressionists. There's Vera Tamoriso and Mary Cassatt, the American. And she was very beautiful. She was married to Manet's brother. But Manet, her brother-in-law, did many paintings of her, like about 8. And this is from one of them. So, here we go next. Oh, this is another. Sometimes I'll do the same image over and over. Like, let's try it this way, let's try it that way. But I did do a quilt of that. It's at Haus now. So, you have to rub the bank, we're good at backs. And that's Botticelli. So he's 1400s. And this is from a wonderful painting of the Nativity. And it's got, you know, baby Jesus and all them down the corner, and like a slew of other people. I mean, a magi and a big landscape. And Botticelli puts himself in the crowd. He's sort of like, you know, you can always spot them with a, you know, great attitude. So, okay. Anyway, yeah, good. Okay. So back to the quilts. Okay, how about the next one? So if you ever want to learn this, I mean, I do teach these classes, and funny story was I taught, you know, the class how to do favorite collage in Lockport, and this woman from Hamburg showed up, and she took it, and she was rather good at it. Then the Hamburg art group had an art show, and she put, you know, a piece she made in it, and I put something I made. Well, don't they give awards out? And she won. And I told her, they handed me the microphone for some reason. I said, the one thing I've learned is I'm not teaching you again. An ultimate compliment. So anyway, this is brand new. I love patterns too. Okay, I'm sort of thought of as the guy that makes these portrait quilts, but I find them exhausting to make. And whenever I've finished one, I have to make a couple of these just to kind of like clear my brain a little bit. So usually I mix a few patterns together, patterns that were not intended to go together, but strangely the geometry really matches. And let me turn it on. This one I had to have it quilted fast for an art show, so I did it myself on a machine. Usually I do them by hand, but this one I just sort of followed the pattern of the design. So and I'm very interested in how about very interested in printed material, and the husband of the Japanese quilter lady, his job was to sell fabric to quilt shops. So he would give all this leftover samples, and he told me I could just take whatever I wanted. This one is recent. It's not quilted yet, but in it, it uses all of these, you know, totally wacko prints. And the idea is a building, like a New England church building with a steeple or a bell tower or something. And it gives me an opportunity to put lots of little, like, stories almost in it. You know, people in the windows doing things. And then there's some interesting tricks for the quilters. This girl over here and that girl, you know, they're like mirror image. And it's actually, one of them is the reverse side. The ink went through it. Not 100% like the top side, but you can, you know, you can see her pretty well. So, and it's got all this crazy stuff in it. People might ask, what does it all mean? And my answer is like, I don't know. People give me this crazy favorite, like here's bowling ball bags. You know, I mean, somebody actually designed this, and somebody factory printed it, and somebody bought it. So, yeah, and then this is that African polished cotton, which I was very lucky to get some of that from this guy. So, okay. And then usually there's either a building or a face is sort of like the basis of what I do, even when it's not a building or a face. There's always like, you know, two eyes, something here, something here. So it keeps a symmetry to it, is where, you know, our bodies are symmetrical, and just keep them coming. This would be after doing a portrait. You know, it's patterned, but when I put blocks together, I want another pattern to come out. Like these diagonal shapes. That might not be there in each block, but when you put the blocks together, you know, you get these extra patterns, and it really energizes the piece. And then one of the other things is the idea of how to make flesh color without using, like, you know, what's called flesh. Okay, how to use many, I mean, this sort of is a lot of color that could be interpreted as flesh if it was used in something that was, you know, a face. So that's one more thing to, and each on the back too. This one's not quilted. This one, I'll probably put a couple borders around it. There's that phenomenon called gilding the lily. Like, you know, lilies are very beautiful, and the idiom, the expression is somebody like put gold all over the lily. You know, it wasn't good enough in its natural glory, but, you know, you had to gild the lily. So in quilting, I think usually one more element adds a whole lot to your piece. I think people call them finished too early. I mean, I really did for years, and started putting like double borders around them, and okay. Oh yeah, this is sort of the same thing. After doing, you know, a grueling portrait, the portraits take about 3 weeks to do, and I'm, you know, trying to do a couple blocks a day. Some blocks are way more difficult than others, but after it, I just want to, you know, use some wild color and like this type of thing in the juncture of the 4 blocks. I mean, you kind of can't plan that thing. I mean, you really, in art, we have, in design, it's positive and negative. The positive thing might be, you know, the person, and the negative thing would be the background. And each thing is supposed to be equally contributing to the aesthetic value. Okay. You take your pick, yeah. Oh, this is a great one. I love this one. This is another building, kind of. I mean, isn't it? It's a number of buildings with, like, oh, you could go through that arch, and this one, I was noticing all this kind of crazy animal fabric I have. And these things are great to make, but you try fitting them together so that, you know, it lays flat. And there's a number of tricks to do when you try to do that. I should give a class on that, how to make things fit. Because there really are some things people can do. And then in this one, I was thinking of, did you ever go to Tuscany, like Assisi or these other cities? Everything is kind of like crooked, like steps going up somewhere. And that's kind of like what I was thinking with that purple area. And then, I mean, like somebody designed this, it's a Chihuahua Cupid shooting an arrow because he loves somebody, I guess. You know, one of my feelings about art is the value of a piece of art can be measured on the amount of time a viewer looks at it. You know, they just glance and walk away, not so good. But if you're, you know, kind of looking and then taking a few steps away, but then going back for a closer look, that's what you really want. You know, I mean, it really indicates they can't break it off with it. So, okay. Yeah. I got this fabric, Women on Old-Fashioned Telephones. And I just use it a lot. You know, it's so dated and okay, good. Yeah. And I think this is in a different shape. Yeah. Occasionally I'll do a piece that's not a square or a rectangle, and this is one of them, which
It has her paper.
yeah. Don't jump. Okay. Usually 1.5 strips. That's kind of like my size, and I might cut it 3 inches. Usually in a 3-inch ruler, and cut that in half, and then subtract the seam allowance, and this is what you end up with. Frequently, I'll start with horizontal and vertical, and then put it on a diagonal. And that is one of the old Amish tricks. It's a diamond and a square that they've used for years and years. So it's log cabins, except with, this is called rooftop. It's if you were a bird up there looking down and you saw, like a house, a footprint of a house, and like a yard around it. It's so once again, red next to yellow, it just, it always electrifies it. Okay. And this one does have a lot of other shapes developed with the dark compared to the light. And frequently, I haven't drawn this out beforehand to see, how to make a decision. And I'm very happy with whatever I got. I don't have preconceived notions. It's got to be
like a QVC model.
Yeah. I started making these about a year ago, and I needed a bag to, now nowadays you have to carry around, a phone and all this other junk that normally, previous to that, you never carried around. So I started making these, and you can open them up too. This is like a great way of using crazy fabric, but it's using polka patterns and then making something that you can go out in the world with. I think we should always be putting art out in the world with clothing or in my house I have a porch on the front, and for many years during COVID I hung a quilt out on the porch any nice day. So people got to see them in that way. I had no idea how to make a bag. Okay. So I went to YouTube and I found this YouTube movie about some guy making a bag. And it was nice, except he was talking in German. And it was all in metric. So other than that, it was just great. So, yeah. Okay. Next we have another shape one. The shape usually comes from the design. Okay. So once again, it's breaking away from horizontal and vertical, the square or the rectangle. And in this, this really is the color combination that I'm always mentioning. And frequently, I'm thinking of man-made structures, but then, the natural world, like the sky. Okay, so we have this, think about maybe science fiction movie, 2001, Space Odyssey, or something like that, with this man-made thing, like orbiting out in the sky. So, when you put, these are all triangles, and when you put them together, you get that 6-point star. And it plays with logic also. Okay, given, three-dimensional things, there should be a logic to it. Like if the light was hitting, it would hit all the pieces on the one side, the other side would hit the shadow. But it sort of disorients you a bit when you're looking at it in that way. So, okay. Yeah, I think now we have a portrait, and yeah, that's the topic here. Yeah, this is a portrait by the 1700s artist Anthony Van Dyck. He's one of the great portrait artists, and it's simply elderly man with beard. That's what it is, and it's kind of an oil sketch. So in painting, you're always between linear and painterly. Okay, linear would be something like this, clear-cut lines, geometry, but painterly is a range of tone, lines that are fuzzy. So in the end, that was the challenge, to make with a linear cutting and sewing a painterly image. So, and if you want to show them, that's hand quilted, and it's on a diagonal. I had to do this one fast, so I quilted it sort of loosely. And then this one takes great advantage of the borders. It has the image of the face, but then another border all the way around, usually with a lot of attention to the corner, and then another border around that, and then, the binding. So this is like, if it were an art object, it would be like a triple mat. Okay. So, and then this gives you one more chance to add color or sort of unify what you have there to begin with. You got one more shot at it. You're the boss. Oh, this is our old favorite. Yeah, this is a town favorite. Yep. Okay. I do a lot of self-portraits. And this one, the story is when I was retiring, I had to find my birth certificate, which could have been anywhere. So I went through everything, and I found it and a picture of myself when I was about 35. And I thought, oh man, I make a great quilt. So I talk about my work as always being portrait and pattern. Okay, a realistic picture, but then geometric quilt patterns. So this is about 10 years old now, I think. And it's that image, I'll take the image, a photograph, to the copy store and blow it up, draw a grid on it, and then go block by block, trying to, make the fabric what I'm looking at. So this one was in the Birchfield Art and Craft Media show about 10 years ago. But anyway, these are 9 pages. That's your easiest page is 4 page. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 9 pages, 3, 3, 3. So you can get diagonal lines on it, and people describe my work as mainly being a colorist. Like I'm working with color, and which is true. Although occasionally I'll make a black and white quilt, black, white, and gray. Okay. Cheerful coming down. If anybody has any questions as we go along, we could address them. Oh yeah. I get in different frames of mind. A lot of the time, it's influenced by the material. These 1950, slim, stylish girls. I put a picture of this on Facebook when I made it, and I got this message from a woman saying she actually designed the fabric. She said, I work for a fabric company, and I made it, I designed it. And then didn't she dig out the painting and took a picture of it? Who knew? So this one is, you tell me, the story. In this one, it's still got the kind of building with right side up, upside down. There's a lot of water images, mermaids or fish. So, and a lot of like optical illusions. Think of the 6 hexagon one. Where, wow, wait a minute, you got to go going that way. That can't go this way. So, it's fabric. So, it's interesting. Oh, yeah, right. I haven't made any of these in a while. I seem to get that out of my system. Or I ran out of ideas or something. Yeah, that's the other way. This one actually began with this printed fabric. And I thought, it's nice, but it would be better if it had like a gold swoosh through it. So I cut it, and then instead of, I can't just do it simply. I mean, if I'm going to put an orange swish, it's going to have a light and a dark, like a 3D to it. And then from that, that's how I began with that. And then I had that cowboy guy. I thought, I put him with the telephone girl. And then I sort of worked out. And then this, it becomes sort of like a building now with a roof and, walls. And this is sort of like, the quilt pattern New York Beauty. It's like a circle with like stars in it. And it's kind of hard to do, but I did it kind of free form, just making these, triangles. And then this one really uses up a lot of novelty fabric. I want you to not really know what it is. To look at it, it's like, what is that? Pomegranates. And then down here, it's silhouettes of women, black figures on white. But from a distance, it looks like piano keyboard. So it's kind of, who thought it was a piano keyboard? So that's, the tragedy is when I run out of the material. you know, it's like, I mean, you can't go to the store and get it again. It's, you get it, and then, you know, don't come crying because you didn't buy enough. This is, this is kind of like a normal portrait of one of my art heroes, the American artist, Thomas Eakins, who is really our character. And he was from Philadelphia. And he really is he and Winslow Homer, the great painters in America from 1850 to early 1900s. And that's a portrait of him. There's lots of photographs of him. He used photography in his work. And this one, you know, I did inch by inch, square by square. One thing to note is the ear, for example. My work, you know, I hope someday I'll be thought of as, oh, you know, they're great artists. I don't know, if it happens, it happens, if it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm doing the best I can, really. And something like spending how many days on that stupid ear? You know, really just saying, oh, I don't know, let's go over it. You know, this is one thing you can think about with artists. It's actually in the 20th century, art connoisseurs and art dealers looked at old paintings and they couldn't tell if they were real or fakes. And one of the tests they used to do about 1900 was the ear test, okay? If the ear was as good as like the eye, the nose, the mouth, that was telling you something that was probably the work of the real artist. But if they just put like a C there with pink paint, it was like, oh, come on, that guy can't paint an ear. I mean, it's one thing to think about. Think about artists painting a figure. They'll say things like, how do you want my hands? It's like, well, put them in your pocket, you know, or put it behind your back. You know, you don't have to draw it. Maybe they can't draw hands. So anyway, that is one thing to do. With this one, I made it and examined it for its aesthetic value. And I ended up switching out about 20 little squares, replacing them with different colors to make it really harmonized. So, you know, each one, you know, it goes 15 minutes. You gotta pop, you know, 4 pieces of thread, put the new piece in, you know, sew it so it's not gonna come apart. So anyway, want to show me the back? Yeah, this is kind of like my typical hand quilting. I much prefer hand quilting to machine, unless Hiroko is doing it, because she really is. She adds to aesthetic value. Okay, we're going to speed it up because, how about we'll save that one until kind of later. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. This one, every now and then I just make up a pattern. And this is an older piece, but it kind of wanted to be a log cabin, kind of. But I just kept on going around and around and around. And in it, think about what patterns you see. There's a great many patterns in this. There's the overall block, there's the half, you know, 2 diamonds making a square, there's a light side and dark side, there's this kind of incredible meandering going all over it. And there's a pattern with the angles of the red and white, you know, boom, 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 boom. Each of these things adds to the kind of excitement of it all. Also, there's a pattern within each block: light, dark, light, dark, light, that leads you to the next one. So, this is an old one, I don't know, 35 years old maybe. So, I've never gotten around to quilting it. And it's really, this is the sort of thing, if you look at it, would you think the person that did this did those other ones? I mean, it looks like, although it's got those same colors, red, white, yellow. Okay. I use a machine for straight lines, okay? And I use a machine for curves too, unless it's a very acute curve. Okay, those I do by hand. And I can do them quicker by hand than this is another one. It's around the world, it's called. And it's called postage stamp also. This one I was making, I started in the center, with blue. And I went around and went around and went around. And I really had no idea, overall pattern, where it was going to go. At one point I turned it on a diagonal. Can you see all those patterns in it? Like diamond shapes. They're sort of there and then they sort of fade out into something else. And this one's got a fair amount of regularity. Like, this line's got some yellow in it. The edge, I love these kind of flame like a little touch of yellow here and there too. I think subconsciously I'm assigning value, like in numeric value to every color in terms of its intensity, and that's balanced with the size of the piece I use. Like if something's too bright, like you're probably not going to use too much of it. You use a strip of it or something like that. And then this one's nice on the back. Hiroko did this one. Is anybody that quilts knows, with a lot of these shapes, they're prone to like keystoning. They just won't lie flat when you go out. It's one little hair magnified by all these rows that just throws it off into like ripples. So she does what she calls nails it down for you. I could never quilt that one, so I let her do it. But and this one is actually based on the visual of a red and white checkered tablecloth. That's pretty much the idea behind it. So how many of you want to start quilting as soon as you get home? We have quilters here, Terry quilts. Oh, yeah, thank you. I was guessing you were. Okay, we've only got a few more to go. Here we go. Here's another one. It's kind of like this crazy optical illusion house with people and windows. And then it's not symmetrical. It looks symmetrical, but I had to make all these things individually to make it fit. And many people might say, the heck of it, forget it. But no, I've learned that there always is an answer. There always is a solution to this stuff. And in doing my quilt work, I have to come up with the answer or the solution. It's like this autodidact where, like, there's no book to look it up in. There's no people resource to ask. You just have to figure it out. And frequently the material gives you the answer when you just sort of set it next to where you want it to go. some answer will come up. When I'm putting the pieces together, I'm always lining up something with something. Okay, maybe you can't line up every single thing with what you already have, but there's something you can line up. It could be like something hitting, you know, like this hitting that, or it could be, you know, a line that our brain sort of peers through from one thing to another. You know, it's not physically there, but, you know, that thing connects down here somewhere. So this is a Rococo quote too. And this is what she does. Other people that do online quilting, you know, they press a button and you got zigzags or something. She does it all by hand. She's going with my design and, you know, putting patterns on it. The other thing, this has a lot of depth to it. Like, it's leading you right into, or taking you right out of the center of it. Okay, I think we have 3 or 4 left, and then you get refreshments. Yeah, how about that? Yeah. This is another one. You know, after doing a portrait, had to, you know, I wanted to do something silver, gray silver. I got a lot of gray, a lot of silver. And in it, you know, it's a 9-patch. So there's a lot of 9 patches. Then there's something going around the 9-patch. And then apparently I notched the corners into 2 triangles so they would connect with the next one, making, you know, this bow tie. Okay, and unlike the other one, all the bow ties are on the same, you know, red going one way and the gold's going the other. So it's really kind of a remarkable, you know, mix of color in it. So the reason I show these to people is to help people try new color. Usually, if you have one color you're going to use, don't just use one version of that color. You can use hot pink, you know, how about 10 of them? And don't overthink it. Just use your impulse. You know, actually, when I'm working, usually alone at night, and I'm doing even a portrait, I'll just think it's got to be purple. You know, it's got to be purple. And it's got to be that color. It's got to be this value, like on a scale of 1 to 6, a 4. You know, it's just got to be there. And then I'll think, you know, it's not going to work. I force myself to use it. And I would say it's almost always right. You know, you're trying to push yourself out of that box that keeps you from doing something you've already done before. But, and countdown is 3 to go. This is a portrait. This is a really nice one. If I remember correctly. I mean, look at it. Before we look at the picture, look at her. You know, can you imagine? No wonder she charges a fortune. You know,
that is by hand?
No, this is a long arm machine. Okay. But she uses this ruler, and she's always turning everything. There's movies, like YouTube movies of her doing this. And she's a master. She never quilted. I mean, she started doing this.
It reminds me of I have an Arkansas quilt because my sister became a hillbilly in Arkansas. But it was just one color, but it was the quilting that was the design, and it was so beautiful.
Yeah, that really, I mean, you could flip this and just look at the other one. She'll change the color 20 times in the thread. I don't. This is a portrait of the French painter Carlos Duran, D-U-R-A-N, and he was one of the teachers of Johnson and Sargent, who we think of as this great American portraitist. He was in Europe much of his life and studied under Carlos Duran. So I'm interested in artists that were around when photography was developed, that we get portraits of them. The original of this by Sargent, it's in the Clark was it Springfield, Massachusetts? It's the Clark Institute. It's really, they put a big addition on it. So in this one, we have like a diagonal pattern. So even though it's horizontal, vertical, there's all those shapes going through it. And I really kind of let it rip with a lot of these like high vis, electric sort of colors in it. Okay. Turnup. Justin's losing it. Okay, how about we'll keep it for really last? It's worth it. This would have been another, think of it in a fine dining, they give you the thing to cleanse the palate, or after like this portrait, I need a vacation. So, in this one, once again, it's shapes. A little trick for the quilters is I do this once in a while. If I have need four triangles to square something, I'll make one big pineapple block, like the same size as the whole piece. And then I'll cut it like in quarters on the diagonal, and then piece that in. Automatically, there are four identical pieces. By making one and cutting in quarters, you got four the same. And that's actually what you're looking at the corners of that. One big pineapple cut. I've done it many times, and nobody can figure out what it is. So don't tell anybody. Okay. So how about the green really? And let me just see what. This is my last, one I completed not long ago, and it's not quilted yet because it's too much work. Is it right side up? Yeah. This is the French artist. He's another impressionist artist, Gustave Caillebotte. And there's a big show of his work right now at the Art Institute of Chicago, and I went to it a couple of weeks ago. This collector guy got arranged for a tour before they opened, before the crowds came, and he asked me if I wanted to go. So I took the train to Chicago to see it, and it was great. And this is from a portrait of Caillebotte. It's kind of like nobody's heard of him. He was one of the prominent impressionists, but he died young, 45, and he was a very wealthy family. And they didn't have to sell anything because he didn't need the money. So when he died, they never really sold anything. In this one of the breakthrough moments is not putting in the line in which we go from flesh to background on his cheek. You got to use your head, And so one of my ideas is leaving it up to the viewer. Here's my piece. You gotta, engage with it. So, and the other thing is all those colors. That same pattern, the black, is all over the face. It's not like the early portrait of me, in which I used a non-pitch, but then just did face. This one is still that pattern with all that stuff like all over the place. So, anyway, thank you all for your attention. Please questions.
Any questions, comments?
Yes, when you get the material first, or you get the idea of it? I mean, you have loads of.
Now I have a ridiculous, mass of fabric. But when I first started, I had nothing. And if you think about it, you go to a quilt shop, and they have like threads, Peter Pan, whatever it was, like a dot, little dots on it. I mean, there was no aesthetic ability to it. Now you can get just about anything. But I have maybe a dozen laundry baskets, one for each color, basically like whites, blacks, reds, wild patterns, novelty fabric. It's all over the place. I mean, I am very not neat. I never put anything away. I sort of riffle through piles looking for something. I keep, I can sort of tell you what I'm running out of, and then I'll go get some more there. And I only buy stuff from the sale. Okay? I mean, it's all like $15 a yard now. And, I mean, it's going to be on sale sooner or later. And one of the ideas is, hey, I can make a great piece of art out of stuff from the sale. Okay, but I want to say also, a lot of material I just plain don't like, and I won't use it. If I don't love it, I'm not going to use it. And I could even show you what I'm looking for. I can almost spot it a mile away, rack. It's like, yeah. Oh, yeah, that one. And I mean, people give me fabric, and sometimes it's wonderful stuff, and other times, I'm thinking, and I think having ugly fabric around is a negative. I think it kind of saps our energy. You look at your fabric and it's like, throw it in the garbage. I mean, you're not going to miss it. Nobody else wants it. So, anyway.
I have one more personal question.
Sure.
Did you max out your credit card on Joanne Fabric?
I got some of my favorites before they went into oblivion, but I was getting almost disenchanted with Joanne Fabric. I mean, it was all that laser print stuff. I mean, for you quilters probably know, if you look at the edge of it, if it's got those colored dots, it's a silk screen print. Whereas if it doesn't, it's a laser. And who knows how long that stuff's going to last, the color. When a year ago, this group in Beverly Hills had me come do my program there. Beverly Hills. Pick me up in its hustler. It was great. Anyway, this one lady worked at Hoffman Fabric. So she said, do you want to see Hoffman Fabric? Well, first we went to the Getty Museum. Yeah, they told me I could pick one place to go, so I went to the Getty Museum. Then we went to the Crystal Cathedral. I've always wanted to go there. And it's a Philip Johnson building. It's all glass. So we went there. And then we went to her Hoffman Fabric. She pulls in, she's got her own parking space. So we went around, they do all this fabric, they keep their formula and pattern, and they can reprint it, if somebody wants it. So they told me I could take my own. So when you say, I tried not to make a hog of myself. I took a few. I said, how about some black? I went out of black. I go through it like mad. And so I said, just give me some black. She's like, and then here's another one. So I got this wonderful fabric. It's in one of those bags. Maybe I gave it to my granddaughters. They live in St. Louis, so it was Route 66. Big Bob, Big Boy, the guy with the hairdo, and all the stuff along Route 66, including the arch, in St. Louis. So I made some bags out of that, but just give me a couple of guys like that. I don't know how much this stuff goes for, but a lot. But anyway, yeah, fabric is, you can tell people love fabric, particularly with women especially. You look at the clothing, you can tell they're, totally into fabric. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please grab some refreshments and ask Jack any questions. Okay, thanks.
I'm home, but not for long. I leave
You had to do all the hard work.
Yeah, I book all the shows here. I book all the shows here.
Plus, the workout you did here. Yeah. Hopefully your shoulders are better than mine.
Yeah, they are now.